Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call the October 1st meeting of the Common Council to order. I'll ask our clerk to call the roll.
Alderman Shpleski.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Lysick.
Here.
May.
Here.
Reinke.
Here.
Rote. Here. Stefanski.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
And Barzak.
Here.
That's 10 present.
A quorum is present. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this evening by Alderman Shpleski.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on to item D on our agendas. We have two items for public hearing this evening. I'll ask the clerk to read public hearing item number 1.
Resolution relative to determination of application for a special use permit for the Lifeway Church, a proposed religious institution to be located at 7515 West National Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Scher.
Thank you, Mayor. The first public hearing this evening is for the Lifeway Church, which is submitted a special use application to locate within the Masonic Lodge, Masonic Temple. It's located at 75th and National on the south side of National Avenue. The Masonic Temple is currently for sale, and the Lifeway Church has made an offer to purchase the building, which is Zone C2 Neighborhood Commercial. The Lifeway Church currently is in operation and offers services at Nathan Hale High School since 2014. And they have an average attendance of about 160 persons, which equates to roughly about 60 vehicles that park on site. And then 2 Sunday services are offered at 8:30 and 10:30 a.m. on Sundays. The religious institutions are considered special uses within the C2 district, and that's the purpose of our hearing this evening. So this is the aerial view of the area, the subject location, the Masonic Temple property here, and it's located between 75th and 76th Street on the south side of National Avenue. Immediately to the east is the West Ellis Public Library, and to the west is a commercial corridor of National Avenue. To the south are residential properties, and to the north is high-density residential and National Avenue. So with the application that was submitted to staff and went before the Plan Commission last month, the church is proposing various site improvements to the property as well as the building. Staff is also has made a recommendation to the Plan Commission, and which has been accepted by Plan Commission. Basically, various site improvements to the parking lot, including perimeter landscaping along National Avenue, as well as 75th Street, refuse containment around a proposed garbage dumpster behind the property. There's also a number of different landscape areas that will be cleaned up and improved upon the site. The red area, the red striped area on the right-hand side of the building will be removed and basically pruned and trimmed to open up more natural light into the existing windows on the east side of the building. The parking lot, the future parking lot would include poured curbs and also be resealed and improved. Another part of staff's recommendation was to combine the 2 lots, Lot 1 and Lot 2, into one lot of record via certified survey map. The Lot 2 portion is the existing parking lot, and Lot 1 is the building. In terms of parking requirements, the church would be required to provide 210 parking stalls under today's zoning ordinance. About approximately 35 parking stalls are available on the existing property, and there's approximately about 70 parking stalls within the immediate vicinity of National Avenue, 75th, 76th Streets. The library, the church is requesting to utilize parking of the library, and they would anticipate about 100, there's up to about 125 parking stalls available within that lot. The Lifeway Church, again, currently has about 60 vehicles that come to service at Nathan Hale High School, and of that, with potential growth, they would anticipate a max of 100 vehicles at this location. So the Lifeway Church has requested to use the library parking lot for Sunday services. And again, those Sunday services are 8:30 and 10:30 in the morning. Plan Commission has recommended approval of the use, and there have been no objections to date. Be happy to answer any questions or clarify anything as part of the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are there questions from the Common Council on this item?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Weigel?
Steve, just for a point of clarification, this special use agreement that we're talking about here really has nothing to do with the parking. We're not necessarily proving that they can use the library parking lot with this action, if we...
Yeah, well, the zoning ordinance does allow for shared parking as part of our zoning, but that would be up to council, the policy decision as to whether or not they should use the parking lot or allow them to use the parking lot is up to for council. This evening, we would recommend that council approve this special use, and should some arrangement be desired to work out with use of library parking, that could come back as a separate resolution.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, so this church is 5 years old? Started in 2014, did you say?
Yes.
And I'm just curious about those hours of services. So we have Sunday morning, Sunday noon. I imagine in the future there'll be Saturday weddings. I mean, I spoke to the pastor about it today, and it wasn't a real direct answer on that. I understand the church is probably, I would anticipate if they're switching from being a renter at a different location to becoming a property owner in the city, which I'm always a fan of, that they would expect that their congregation would be getting larger, because, I mean, growth is a good thing for these kinds of organizations, I think. I just want to make sure that we're not burdening that neighborhood with a parking issue from day one on this, at least not something that can't be figured out at a later date.
Correct. That's our understanding as well, is that they currently have the Sunday services when the peak traffic volumes would be experienced. Could they have weddings in the future? Sure. I wouldn't doubt it. Under their current, like you said, they're a new church. They haven't had that, I guess, demand at their current location. Could that happen at this? It could, and I guess time would tell. But they are requesting to use library parking on Sundays only at this point. Again, that would be a separate discussion and resolution should council choose to offer that.
Okay, and then my
use of that
regular
lot.
special use question, I guess we all know the answer to this. Being a church, it's nonprofit, so they won't be paying any property taxes. And I always ask about job creation too, but obviously it's a church, it's not a event center or fabricating plant or anything. It's really just meeting the spiritual needs of the community.
Purely a church. Yeah, daycare or anything like that has not been indicated with this use as part of their application. It's purely just a church.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Devine,
Thank you, Alderman Weigel. Alderman Stefanski?
has there been any talk about future use? Because I know a number of churches that have events and do a lot of things within the community in the evenings during the week, which is, kind of when the library is going to be open and the parking lot's going to be used. Has that been taken into consideration?
There would be, I mean, there will be some office hours during the week, and there could be some music lessons and some other activities during the week for the congregation, but it would be very, what's been indicated to us is going to be very small. It could be accommodated on their actual parking lot itself. Sundays would be the peak demand for, additional parking.
Alderman Rote?
Was the Masonic Temple tax exempt?
Yes, yeah.
Mayor Devine.
Alderperson Ranky?
Steve, was it indicated at the time that they will hold the services?
Yeah, Sunday
Do they
services would be...
coincide with the library?
Well, yeah, so
hours?
the 8:30 a.m. on Sundays as well as
8:30?
10:30. So two services on Sunday, 8:30 and 10:30. And
30 and 10:30.
the library is closed part of the year and then
Yes.
open, during the summer, I think from April or May to September or so.
Through August.
And they open at 1 p.m. So there shouldn't be a conflict on Sundays. Yeah.
Because the library obviously is.
The library's either fully closed or
used
they don't open until 1.
extensively,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
wouldn't want them to be without parking,
Right,
the people that, go to the library.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, on Sundays, if the library is open, it would open at 1 p.m. And the services would end at noon. So
Okay.
there
So it
should
shouldn't
be
be a problem.
sufficient gap, right?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the Common Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Vitale.
Steve, I would like to ask, in respect of any liability, once we have the influence of the church next door, anybody patronize the church that can just park at the library. What if something happens? I mean, is any legal stance the city would be liable for, I mean, if we have a citizen going there to the library to be served, I believe it's one thing. But once we start having somebody else start to utilize the library parking lot, maybe we should check in closely before we determine any future decisions,
Yeah, any future, I guess, agreements, if desired, could be handled separately via resolution.
Yeah. Very good, Steve.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from the members of the Common Council?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman May.
on that topic of parking, Steve, you said there's approximately right now currently at the church at Nathan Hale, 160 individuals per service approximately, with about 60 vehicles.
Yes.
And we're showing, I believe you showed 35 parking spaces on the site plus 70 available. That's 105. That's well above 60. I think at least in the short term, I don't think this is going to be a problem. I think what you indicated to us is we'll be approving this, understanding that there will be a parking deficiency, and if they ever want to come back to us and use the library, they'll have to do that at a separate time, correct?
That is
So I-
correct. Yeah.
I'm just looking at 105 spaces with street and parking, seeing average 60 a service. There should be plenty of parking, at least from the start. So I just want to point that out to everybody. The library may become a non-issue, maybe a non-issue now, it may become an issue in the future. When it becomes a problem, the applicant will have to come back, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Weigel.
Alderman May, that 105 includes the library? Yes. It's 35 on their property.
There's 35 parking stalls on their property.
What would be their property?
And then we
70 on the street.
estimated roughly about 70 on the street, including
Oh.
National, 75th.
I don't know how you got to
side
70 on the-
streets. Yeah.
It's a pretty parked up
If
street.
we go out 800 feet per the ordinance, I mean, it's,
That neighborhood's pretty parked up already on a Sunday morning. Okay.
Any other questions from the council? No questions from the council. Are there any questions from the members of the audience? Just come on up to the podium, please, and give us your name and address for our notes. Record.
Andrew McLean, 2517 West Clayton Crest Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm the lead pastor at the Lifeway Church, so thank you for taking the time to consider this request. We have been in West Allis for 5 years, launched out of, as Steve said, out of Nathan Hale High School. We strongly believe that we understand that everyone's not a person of faith, but that places of faith do make the community a better place. And I just wanted to share, like, as far as the parking thing from our perspective, while it may not be needed initially, we don't want to go in and sign the final dotted line if it's going to be a problem with the city moving forward. So at some point over the next couple of weeks, I guess, determining, how that will be handled in the future is kind of dependent on us moving forward on the property, because obviously a property does us no good if people don't have a place to park, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments from the members of the audience? Okay, seeing none, we will close our first public hearing. And I will ask the clerk to read public hearing number 2.
Resolution relative to determination of application for a special use permit for a proposed hotel to be located at 1010, 1040, and 1126 South 70th Street.
Thank you. Mr. Scher?
thank you, Mayor. The Home to Suites, Hilton Home to Suites is, and Cobalt has submitted a proposal previously in February to locate a hotel at 70th and Washington. That location is shown on the middle slide. The overall property is on the far left side. It shows the overall boundaries of the overall property, subject property. The initial proposal in February of 2019 is in the middle slide. And the proposal is to relocate that same hotel further south on the same property, but just further south. It'd be the same, approximately the same size, 5 stories, 128 rooms, and feature similar attributes. The purpose for the relocation was to maximize the development potential at the intersection of 70th and Washington. This concept that's been provided by the developer shows the eastern portion of the 70th Street corridor, and the hotel, as you can see, has been relocated to the south. That's the heavier purple outline on the right side of your screen. And the concept would be to show, which is just purely a massing concept, is to show some different mixed-use types of development at the corner to maximize, again, the density at that intersection, improve the taxable value, and then which would include potentially grocery stores, restaurants, retail, and office uses at the corner. Parking structure is that gray building, which is shown in concept, and then the hotel would be on the right in purple. So that's the overall conceptual master view. Getting back to the hotel specifically, though, that overall property that we had just talked about is Zone C3, community commercial. It does permit hotels as a special use, and a certified survey map would be submitted within the coming months to potentially split off the portion of that property to create the hotel lot. And the zoning also features a planned development district overlay, which was put on the overall property early on last year, really not knowing the future and how many buildings were going to be on one lot. So at that time, we proposed a planned development district overlay, so you can have more than one building on a lot. So we don't think that's going to be necessary any longer, so in the future, we may come back to Common Council to remove that planned development district. The overall site and landscaping plan are shown here. Again, a 5-story hotel, about 78,000 square feet. The hotel will feature a drop-off lane along 70th Street. Like many urban metropolitan hotels, you'll have an area where you can pull up, unload the car or load the car, and then drive away. Very similar to like a valet type of service. There will also be a drive access on the north and south sides of the hotel here off of 70th Street. There would also be cross access between the subject property and the town center, as well as the Whitnall Summit property. 133 parking stalls, give or take a few, are going to be provided on this site, which is more or less one per room. Key. On the right-hand side is our proposed site and landscaping plan, and again, I mean, perimeter landscaping, parking lot landscaping are all part of this foundation landscaping plan, are all proposed. There's also interconnected sidewalk system, private sidewalks within the development, again, to connect places like the retail shopping experience at the town center with the hotel, and also to connect to the public right-of-way along 70th Street. This is the interior plan. The distribution or breakdown of rooms within the building are stated, about 128 rooms in total. I should mention that the property would also include a pool, fitness room, and some meeting rooms. In terms of the exterior architecture, brick, a darker gray, almost black, smooth-faced brick. It's proposed on various portions of the building. Metal panels, lighter gray metal panel, hardy siding, hardy panel siding, which is a cementitious type of siding, would also be featured on different elevations of the building. And then I guess the classic iconic Home to Suites lime green metal panel that would run up one of the towers. And there would be a heat-treated glass element at the very top, which would be illuminated. On the east side of the building, facing the town center, is in the upper slide. The pool area would be on the back side of the building, or the east side of the building. And then the side elevations, north and south elevations, are in the lower elevations you see here. Again, just wrapping the similar elements around all sides of the building for four-sided architecture. Windows, the Plan Commission has recommended some additional windows, which have been incorporated by the developer and architectural team. Plan Commission recommended approval of the architectural and site and landscaping plans. Storefront windows have been added. Various guest windows for the hotel rooms, and then there is some spandrel glass on the back side of the building. The purpose of the spandrel glass, why isn't it transparent? It's the back of house features the housekeeping functions within the building. So again, Plan Commission has recommended approval at the September 25th meeting, and we've received no objections to date.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members of the Common Council?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Weigel?
Steve, so could you go back to the first slide where you show the massing of the buildings on the property?
This
I just wanted to mention that, so now, although we're talking about the hotel here, is that 1,400 space parking structure, that wasn't in the original vision for this property, at least not at that location, correct?
It was close, I mean, not too terribly far off from this location, but yeah, there was a different rendering or concept that was pitched early on as part of the, shareholders meeting and focus groups early on, but this isn't a drastic departure from that. I mean, there was still, I guess, a parking structure with office buildings on the upper floors. In this version, or in this concept, it's largely a parking structure with 1,400 or so stalls, and then the office buildings and the active retail and commercial environment is closer to the street on Washington and 70th Street.
Okay, and that, I seem to remember it was more like of a greenway that connected and arched through to the east and south in the original concepts for that. And that green area in the middle, that's still supposed to be like unprogrammed for green space, correct?
Exactly, yeah, like a amenity common area where a number of events could be conducted. And
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the Common Council?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman May?
this might actually be a question for Kale. Kale, is what's going on here affect the developer's agreement in any way?
None of the normal terms of the development agreement are changing. This is simply a location issue. Because the hotel was presented in a certain location with certain details, in order to change those details, it does have to come back before the council for approval. So other than that, the terms of the development agreement are unchanged.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, are there any questions from the members of the audience? Okay, seeing none, that will wrap up public hearing number 2, and we will move on to item E on your agendas, which is citizen participation, where the council may receive information from members of the public during this 30-minute period. Again, please announce your name and address, sign in, and limit your comments to one statement of no more than 5 minutes. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close our citizen participation segment. We will move to item F. Our standing committees will be meeting during recess, and those room numbers are listed on the top of page 2 on your agendas. Moving on to item G, the mayor's report. I just have one quick thing. As many of you know, the city is in the process of doing a corridor study on Highway 100 from north to south. And I want to let everybody know that on the 17th of October at Irving School, there's going to be a public information meeting, kind of a workshop and a presentation on that process. We're encouraging people, especially those that live in the vicinity of that Highway 100 corridor, to attend. There will be a survey available for those interested. And if you cannot make it, please contact your alderperson in the, that district, which would be District 3 or District 5 in this case, to get a link to the survey, or contact your neighborhood association, or we will be posting it on Nextdoor. That does conclude, again, October 17th at 6 p.m. at Irving Elementary. That does conclude the mayor's report this evening. Do we have any reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Haas.
the Brewers are winning 2-0 in the first inning. That is all.
Thank you.
I guess that would be a recent event. It's not a recent event attended, or I guess it's an award since they won the wild card. Okay. Any other alderpersons reports?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman May?
I just want to thank the community for coming together. If you recall, a couple of weeks ago, a family in our third district had a house fire and destroyed everything inside. And want to thank everyone for the funds raised. I want to thank Suzette Grisham with Suzette's Hair for You for holding a haircutting event and raising money that way, and of course all the other community support that came through. I also, with the rains coming this week, a reminder to clear the drains in front of your homes to avoid street flooding. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other alderpersons reports?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of the minutes of the Common Council meeting of September 17th, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Were there any changes to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Item J on your agenda is I'll ask for a motion to refer item 4 to the city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Standing committee reports, License and Health Committee.
Mayor Devine, I will read those out after the recess committee.
Thank you.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are in recess.